I don't know about you, but for a lot of us who, grew up on a steady diet of sci-fi, the ultimate domestic dream was Rosie from the Jetsons.
Oh, absolutely.
The singing, aluminum-bodied servant who handled all the chores while the humans mostly just flew around in bubbles and worried about which beauty salon to visit. It was this perfect, effortless future.
It really was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a dream of efficiency, it was a dream of character. Rosie was reliable, a little sassy, and crucially, totally non-threatening. That characterization set a mental image for decades.
The perfect blend of utility and trust.
Exactly.
And now it feels like we've crossed some kind of significant threshold. We have to introduce you to NEO. It's the latest and maybe the most heavily marketed entry in the humanoid robot space.
And this isn't just a lab prototype being shown off in slow motion. This is a commercial product.
Right. It was recently announced and is now officially available for pre-order.
That's the monumental shift we need to focus on. I mean, we've seen exciting demos from Figure and, of course, the ongoing development of Tesla's Optimus. But NEO is jumping straight into the consumer space.
You can put down a $200 down payment today.
If you want one. Yep.
The sticker shock is, well, it's real. The total cost for NEO is expected to be $20,000. Or you can commit to a $500 monthly subscription.
And they're projecting delivery, and this feels a little optimistic, for 2026. And this isn't for factories. This is pitched specifically as a household helper.
Folding your laundry, emptying the dishwasher, all these complex human-like tasks.
Right. So before you rush to click that pre-order button, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to look beyond the extremely slick marketing and that rosy nostalgia to understand the gap. And it's an immense gap.
It is.
Between that $20,000 promise and the current technological and, ethical reality.
Yeah. So let's start with the physical machine itself. NEO is being pitched as the first large-scale commercial humanoid built for the home. Given that competitors like Figure and Optimus are still very much focused on industrial use, what makes NEO fundamentally different?
Well, what sets NEO apart is a core design philosophy centered entirely on safety and softness. They call it biomimetic, which, just means it's meant to imitate the human body, not just in shape, but in feel.
And they certainly leaned into that organic feel. They avoid that cold, metallic look of older robots. Instead, it's this clean, sculpted human form, especially when it's dressed in normal clothing, which they show in a lot of the demos.
It's smart psychological design for sure, but the technical innovation is what really matters. They use something called tendon drive technology.
Tendon drive.
Yeah. So instead of relying on rigid gears or noisy hydraulics, which can be jerky and dangerous, they mimic human tendons and muscles.
So it's not just moving an arm, it's more like pulling on a ligament.
Essentially. They pair these high-torque motors with a tendon-based transmission system. And that engineering choice is just vital because it produces soft, fluid movements. If a human or a pet bumps into it, the response is softer.
Less abrupt.
Way less abrupt, and ultimately safer than what you'd get from a more industrial machine.
And the safety features are built right into its core specs. Crucially, its weight, it's only 30 kilograms.
That's about 66 pounds.
Yeah, the weight of an average, 6 or 7-year-old child?
That lightness is a huge constraint, but it's also a huge selling point for using it in a home. If a 300-pound robot falls over, you have a catastrophe. If NEO fall, the damage is minimized.
And that's also why the whole exterior is covered in a soft outer surface made of these 3D polymer lattices. You aren't touching cold metal.
Right, and then you have the hands, which are always the trickiest part of robotics.
Always.
They boast 22 degrees of freedom. That is incredibly complex, and it speaks directly to that promise of doing delicate human tasks.
It has to, right? If it's going to load cups into a dishwasher or fold clothes without crushing them.
But we do need to address the immediate operational constraint. Power. 4 hours of battery life is not a full shift.
Right, 4 hours. That's enough time to fold, maybe. 5 loads of laundry if it moves fast, and then it has to go sit and charge.
So if you're buying this as a replacement for a human helper, a 4-hour window of operation makes it more of a highly specialized appliance than a true servant.
That's a good way to put it.
It's a high-end, complex machine that can only work in short bursts for now.
Okay, so we have a lightweight, soft exterior robot with these hyper-complex hands. Let's talk about the AI brain that runs it, which they call Redwood AI, and the 3 big promises they're making.
What's fascinating here is how they're approaching the interface. It's managed purely by voice commands.
No keyboards, no complex menus.
Which makes sense for a device that's supposed to operate fluidly in a dynamic home environment.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. The first core promise is the most obvious one: house chores. You use a simple mobile app to select tasks, clean the bathroom, water the plants.
Empty the dishwasher.
Yes, empty the dishwasher, and you can monitor it remotely, watching the washing machine get loaded.
The second function is companionship. The robot has two wide-angle cameras and sophisticated language models, so it can act as a sort of robotic version of something like ChatGPT.
So, reading text aloud for someone with visual impairments or just being a conversational partner.
And that connection to advanced language models is intentional because OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT, is actually an investor in this startup.
So, they're leveraging that cognitive architecture?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the robot exists physically in your space, it's not just running in the cloud, it is seeing and hearing your environment. That spatial memory is immensely valuable.
It can look inside your fridge, see what you have, and then suggest dinner menus. That's a whole different level of interaction than a smart
A
speaker.
fundamentally different level.
And the third promise, the big one, is autonomous tasks: fetching, carrying, clearing. If you tell it, clear the empty dishes, the Redwood AI system is designed to parse that complex command and break it down into dozens of executed steps.
The promise is of seamless, reliable autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the point where we have to pause because that promise crashes directly into the current reality. And that reality is far clunkier than the marketing suggests.
Right. We have the results of an exclusive test from the Wall Street Journal, and those results. They put the promise through a major reality check. The performance was not fluid, it was slow. Painfully slow.
We're talking over 1 minute just to get a water bottle from the fridge.
A minute.
Loading 3 cups and a few plates into a dishwasher took 5 minutes. Imagine just standing there waiting for 5 minutes, watching a robot load 3 cups.
And folding a single shirt.
2 minutes, with movements described as slow and erratic.
Okay, that speed deficit is frustrating enough. But here is the crucial, absolute game changer. The revelation that separates the dream from the machine. To perform even those slow, basic tasks, the robot cannot currently operate fully autonomously.
Correct. The $20,000 robot is currently being managed by a human operator controlling it remotely. This is called teleoperation.
A human.
Yes. And the CEO, Bernd Bornick, has been refreshingly transparent about this. He stated very clearly that buyers getting the robot in 2026 must accept that human operators will be remotely controlling the robot inside their homes.
Hold on, let me process that. A human being in an office somewhere is driving the robot around my house. Why on earth is remote human control necessary? Isn't the point of AI that it drives itself?
It's necessary because we fundamentally misunderstand what AI learned from the internet versus what a physical robot needs to learn. The AI revolution so far was fueled by data, bits
Yeah.
and bytes online.
Right.
But physical robots need physical data, atoms and photons.
Atoms and photons. That's a fantastic distinction. You're talking about real-world physics, gravity, texture.
Exactly. The digital world is clean. The physical world is messy and infinite. The AI model just hasn't gathered enough real-world physical movement data. Sequences of how to properly grasp a wrinkled shirt or the precise force needed to close a fridge door.
So the initial buyers are essentially paying $20,000 to be beta testers. Their homes are the real-world training ground.
Precisely. This is the feedback loop. When a user assigns a task like load the laundry and grants permission, an authorized remote operator intervenes. They put on VR goggles to see through the robot's cameras and thus straight into the user's home.
Oh, wow.
The human then manually performs the task, driving the robot's arms to sort through the user's clothes, fold a towel, whatever it is.
Wait. A remote stranger is visually present in my home, driving a robot to pick up my socks and underwear. That is a fundamental invasion of domestic privacy.
It is extremely intimate. And you've hit on the core ethical friction point.
Yeah.
But from the company's perspective, that human action is being converted into precious physical data that Redwood AI ingests. Redwood AI is the student, and the human operator is the remote teacher.
The human is the puppet master creating the data, and the robot is the student learning by watching.
And if the robot tries a task on its own and fails, or it gets stuck, say, it can't grip a slippery glass, an expert mode instantly lets the remote operator take over, correct the motion, and teach the right sequence.
So the learning process relies entirely on the user providing diverse, messy, real-world tasks. You have
Yeah.
to actively train it to offer cologne to your guests, just so the human operator can generate that data.
Yes.
This brings us directly to the massive ethical concerns, because we are talking about a machine with cameras and microphones in your most private space, being controlled by a human operator.
It is the ultimate boundary challenge. Now, the company has tried to mitigate this. They say they'll blur faces, they'll let users define restricted zones.
A no-go zone for the bedroom, I guess.
Right. And the user has control via the app over when the operator can intervene. But those are technological solutions to a human trust problem.
And the cyber risks are always looming. What if a hacker takes control of a robot that's connected to your smart door locks? Research shows humans are highly prone to developing empathy and trust for humanoid robots. You might share sensitive information with something that is potentially being driven by a stranger.
Or worse, the standards and laws just haven't caught up yet.
Not even close.
And if we connect this privacy issue to the bigger picture, it's just one hurdle in what is a massive geoeconomic race for the future labor economy.
The financial numbers are almost unbelievable. Morgan Stanley estimates the global market for humanoids could reach $5 trillion by 2050.
Which is double the size of the entire global automotive industry today.
Yeah.
That's the scale of the projected impact.
Mind-boggling.
To put that in perspective, they project a total robot population of 1 billion humanoids worldwide by 2050. It sounds dystopian, but the distribution is key. 90% of those, about 930 million, are expected to be industrial or commercial, working in factories, warehouses, logistics.
So only about 80 million are projected to be in homes, which translates to about 10% of U.S. households, roughly 15 million homes. Still a colossal number.
Still huge. But it contextualizes the market driver,
Yeah.
industrial automation. And the geopolitical stakes couldn't be higher. China is projected to lead this robot population race, potentially reaching 302 million robots by 2050.
And this is driven by massive centralized government support for what they call embodied AI.
They explicitly call it that. It's a state-sponsored race to control the future of labor.
And that focus on embodied AI machines that can physically interact with the world is clearly seen as the next frontier.
And the implications for human labor are profound. Morgan Stanley projects that by 2040, 8 million jobs in the U.S. alone will be replaced by robots. The wage effect is $357 billion.
That's staggering. Which sectors are going to feel this the most?
According to the projections, sectors with repeatable physical labor. Construction, for example, could see 70% of its jobs replaced. Agriculture and forestry are close behind at 67%.
So this technology is going to fundamentally redefine entire industries well before it achieves peak domestic utility.
Way before.
So where does this leave us? We're in this incredibly awkward moment between that utopian Jetsons promise and the current reality, which is an expensive, slow machine that, for now, requires a human in VR goggles to remotely watch you and teach it how to fold your underwear.
It's the tension inherent in all transformative technologies. The current state feels clunky, compromised, highly premature. But it reminds me of an interview with Thomas Edison back in 1880.
Right, when electricity was still a dangerous, expensive novelty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Edison famously claimed that electricity would become so cheap that only the rich would use candles. Think about that. At the time, basic amenities were luxuries. In cities like Paris, women washed clothes by hand in public pools called lavoirs.
Having a private wash basin was a status symbol.
They couldn't even conceptualize a washing machine, let alone cheap electricity to run it. They just wished they had a private, reliable source of water. We're in the same stage now. We're building the intelligence infrastructure, the embodied AI grid.
Like the electrical grid 150 years ago.
That's a perfect parallel.
So trying to conceive of affordable, ubiquitous, fully autonomous robots that just do every chore is difficult today because the technology is so compromised.
But the global forces and the immense market potential suggest that one day it may become nearly impossible not to have them. And this raises an important question for you, the listener, to mull over.
Okay.
When that day arrives and robots handle nearly all repetitive physical labor, what new hobbies, pursuits, or human endeavors will take precedence in our lives?
Will we really turn our laundry rooms into spas and hobby centers simply because we have nothing left to do there? Will the dream of Rosie finally be realized by giving us all the ultimate luxury time?
We might finally have the time to revisit all those dreams we had growing up.
It's something to think about. Are you willing to be an early adopter and sacrifice some privacy for the chance to beta test the future? Or are you waiting for the prices and the privacy standards to catch up to the promise? That's our deep dive for today.